Good day, class. This is Teacher Joanna. With me are your teachers, Teacher Hannah, Teacher Fred, and Teacher Al. Today, we are going to talk about our another lesson. But before that, let us have our prayer first. Let us pray. Amen. Good morning, everybody. May I know who are absent today? Great. I'm glad to know that all of you are present. Now, how are you? Is everyone doing all right? I'm glad to know that all of you are okay and trying to overcome any struggle that you're facing right now. Okay, let us have our review on your previous lesson. Can you still remember the levels of biological organization? Or are you familiar with that concept? Okay. So, what would happen if similar cells work together? What do they form? Exactly. They form tissues. And what would happen if similar tissues work together? What do they create? They create organs, and organs create an organ system forming a organism. We have here an illustration on the levels of biological organization from an atom turning into a molecule, forming a macromolecule, an organelle, cell, tissue, organ system, and an organism. So today, we are going to talk about your first topic for your first quarter. This is the human breathing system. At the end of the lesson, you are expected to identify the key parts of the breathing system, describe their functions, explain how the lung works, and create a lung model similar to the one presented and a video presentation about it. Let us begin with this Guess Me activity. The mechanics is similar to 4 picks 1 word. So I will flash set of pictures, specifically 4 pictures on the screen, and you are going to identify the word that best describes the pictures. Understood? Are you all ready? Okay, let us begin with the first set of pictures. We have here a man, a body, and a population. What do you think these pictures represent? Correct. That's human. How about the second one? There's a girl inhaling. There's also a blowing of air. Correct. That's breathing. How about this one? Any guess? Okay, that's system. The next one is pretty obvious. This is an air. The last one, any guess? Awesome. That's passage. So all of these terms correlate to our topic today, which is, everybody say, the human breathing system. So while we are discussing, I would like to request everyone to get your notes and write the necessary things or concepts or terms that your teachers will be discussing today. So you can review it or you can use it for later.
At this point, we will start our lesson by identifying the key parts of the breathing system. So we have here an activity named Name Me. So the instruction for this activity is that you will identify the parts of the breathing system from the given bunch of fruit and use the word box below. Inside the word box are the words trachea, bronchi, bronchioles, and alveoli. Alright, are you ready? Let's start. So the main stem represents four. Very good. Trachea. How about the two large branching stems? Yes, it represents the bronchi. How about the little stems? Yes, it represents the bronchioles. How about the individual grapes? Very good. It represents the alveoli. So at this point, we will talk about the key parts of the respiratory system and their functions. So the function of mouth and nose, these are the openings that pull air from outside your body into your respiratory system. So imagine if we have no mouth and nose, we can't breathe, right? Okay, pharynx or throat, these are the tube that delivers air from your mouth and nose to the trachea or windpipe, while the trachea is the passage connecting your throat and your lungs. Bronchial tubes, these tubes at the bottom of your windpipe that connect into each lungs. Okay, the two lungs are the primary organs of the respiratory system. Did you know, class, that the right lung has three sections called lobes, while the left lung has two lobes? What is the reason behind this? So, the left lung has only two lobes because of the space taken up in the left side of the chest cavity by the heart. The reason why right lung has three sections is that because of its oblique and horizontal fissures divides the lungs into superior, middle, and inferior. So the function of lungs, these are two organs that remove oxygen from the air and pass it into your blood. While the diaphragm, its function is, it is the muscle that helps your lungs pull in air and push it out. While the ribs, bones that surround and protect your lungs and heart. Imagine we have no ribs, so our lungs and heart is not protected at all. Bronchioles, these are small branches of the bronchial tubes that lead to the alveoli, while alveoli, these are the tiny air sacs in the lungs where the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide takes place. Last one, okay, the function of capillaries, these are the blood vessels in the alveoli walls that move oxygen and carbon dioxide. So even though capillaries are very small blood vessels, but it is very essential. Its function is very essential in the process of breathing. So let's proceed. We will talk about alveolus gas exchange. So in this illustration, it shows that during gas exchange, oxygen moves from the lungs to the bloodstream. At the same time, carbon dioxide passes from the blood to the lungs. This happens in the lungs between the alveoli and a network of tiny blood vessels called the capillaries, which are located in the walls of the alveoli. Can you follow? Alright. So here you see red blood cells traveling through the capillaries. So the walls of the alveoli share a membrane with the capillaries. That's how close they are. This lets oxygen and carbon dioxide here diffuse or move freely. So, between the respiratory system and the blood stream, oxygen molecules attach to the red blood cells, which travels back to the heart. At the same time, the carbon dioxide molecules here in the alveoli are blown out of the body the next time a person exhales. So gas exchange allows the body to replenish the oxygen and eliminate the carbon dioxide. So doing both is necessary for survival. Did you get it, class? So let's proceed. So here is the question. How will you describe the pathway of oxygen in the breathing system? Alright, so in inhalation process, when we breathe in, the air enters via nose or mouth, then travels down to the pharynx and larynx, where is the primary filtration done, and then enters into the trachea, where further filtration done. So there are a lot of filtration happening when we inhale air. So and then to the left and right bronchi. After that, it processes through the bronchus, finally enters into the alveoli, where absorption of oxygen from the air takes place. And then, next is the diffusion of oxygen into the capillaries. Did you get it, class? Alright. Question number 3. What will happen if one part of the system fails to carry out its function properly? So what will happen, class? Alright. So if other parts of the breathing system will not function properly, the whole respiratory system will be affected, of course, right? By the way, what is respiration? Did you have an idea about respiration? All right, very good. So, respiration is the act of breathing. And take note that there are mechanisms of breathing. There are two types of respiration. First, inhaling. When the lungs inhale, the diaphragm contracts and pulls downward. The second types of respiration is exhaling. When the lungs exhale, the diaphragm relaxes. So in this illustration, we can see how our diaphragm looks like when we inhale and when we exhale. So when we breathe in or when we inhale air, our rib cage expands as rib muscles contract here. And then in inhalation, the diaphragm contracts or moves down. In this illustration, when we exhaled or when we breathe out air, our rib cage will get smaller while rib muscles relax. In our diaphragm in exhalation process, the diaphragm relaxes or moves up. Here's our diaphragm.
So at this point, we will be looking at this model. This is basically a lung model. I want you to look at how it works. See what happens when it's pulled down, when it's pushed up. Let's have a look at it again just to make sure. Okay, so I have some questions for you. What do you think each part of the constructed lung model represents? So as you can see here, the lung model is basically made up of a plastic bottle, some straws, and some balloons. So what do you think? So here, the opening of the straw is basically our mouth and nose. The straw here is the windpipe. The two balloons here is basically the lungs, and the balloon at the bottom, which is cut, is our diaphragm. So next question is that, what happens as you pull down the balloon at the bottom of the model? So what happens when you pull this down? So the balloon inside the bottle expands if you pull down the balloon at the bottom. In the opposite, what happens as you push up the balloon? So when you push up the balloons inside the bottle relaxes. Basically, it deflates, right? So in relation to that, how does the movement of the diaphragm cause the air to go in and out of the lungs? So what happens here is when you pull down the balloon, it basically means that your diaphragm contracts. When your diaphragm contracts, the inside of your lungs expands, allowing air to enter the body. So when your diaphragm relaxes or when your model is pushed inward, the pressure in the lungs is built up, therefore releasing the air. That's how air goes in and out of the lungs. So that's how diaphragm works. So the last question is that, what might happen if you prick the balloon? So as much as any balloons in the planet, when you prick it, it will not work anymore. So the lung model won't work anymore. So I want you to watch a video on how breathing works.
The function of the respiratory system is to transport air into the lungs and to diffuse oxygen into the bloodstream and carbon dioxide out. It is separated into the upper and lower respiratory tracts. Air enters the upper respiratory tract through the mouth or nose and nasal cavity, where it is filtered, warmed, and moistened. Next, it passes into the pharynx and then into the larynx, which is known as the voice box. From here, the air passes down into the trachea, also known as the windpipe. The inner membrane of the trachea is covered in tiny hair cells called cilia, which catch particles of dust which are removed through coughing. The trachea is surrounded by 15 to 20 C-shaped rings of cartilage at the front and side, which help protect it and keep it open. The trachea divides into two smaller tubes called bronchi, which pass air into the left and right lungs. Once inside the lung, the bronchi split several ways, forming tertiary bronchi. These continue to divide, forming bronchioles, which are narrow tubes less than 1 millimeter in diameter. Eventually, air enters alveolar sacs and alveoli, where gaseous exchange takes place.
So I hope you've learned something about that. So basically, the first destination of the air is in the mouth or the nasal cavity, going through the last, which is the alveoli. So that's how air passes through. So in summary, air enters the body through the nose, nasal passages, trachea, bronchi, bronchial stem to the alveoli, as mentioned earlier. And inhaling contracts the diaphragm muscle and exhaling relaxes the diaphragm.
Time to test your knowledge. Get it started. What major organ in our bodies allow us to breathe? Is it letter A, heart, letter B, lungs, letter C, stomach, or letter D, kidneys? The correct answer is letter B, lungs. For number 2, when you breathe in or inhale, what do your diaphragm muscles do? Is it A, contracts, B, deflates, C, berserks, or letter D, urinate? Correct answer is letter A, contracts. For part B, arrange it part of the breathing system from first to the last or from where the air enters first. Let's reveal the answer. The air goes first to the nose, second in the nasal passages, third in the trachea, fourth in the bronchi, fifth in the bronchioles, and lastly, the alveoli. For the next part, in your opinion, can humans survive without the breathing system of the body? Why or why not? So, it is really possible that a human can survive without the breathing system? No, it's not possible because our breathing system is really important for our survival because our body cannot keep up functioning without it. Good job, class! Let's clap our hands for a job well done. You can also play these games that we created to test your understanding of the lesson. We have parts of the respiratory system, and about respiratory system, a multiple choice quiz with a time pressure, lifelines, and a bonus round. For your assignment, create a long model similar to the one presented and a 5 to 10 minute video presentation about it. There is a link below for a DIY model. So, with a 5-member group, you will create a long model based on what was shown to the class earlier. The output is consist of 30 points. Here's a rubric: the content, organization, graphic design, convention, works cited, and the presentation. Thank you, class, for listening and hope you understand something to our lesson. This is Teacher Al leaving you with a quote: never stop learning.